IndyCar's winningest owner is living a most unusual year. It began at Australia with the Penske cars equipped with a new Chevy engine battling, Rick Mears leading, then Fittipaldi charging, outbraking, and taking the lead. Almost immediately, the fate struck as Emo veered off course. But man mastered the moment. Fittipaldi recovered, still in the lead, and chased by his teammates, screamed for the checker in a 1-2 Penske finish, and an unprecedented win in its first outing for the new engine. In practice for the Indy 500, the fate struck again. This time a lightning bolt aimed at Rick Mears. The great champion lived away, his feet and right wrist injured. The next day, another Penske car with Paul Tracy at the wheel caught the wall. Rogers' racing costs climbed further in the race itself as both Mears and Fittipaldi fell victim to Jim Crawford's spin. With Mears sidelined with injuries, the spotlight found Paul Tracy once again. Originally scheduled for limited racing, he now had to fill the most renowned cockpit in the IndyCars. It has not been an easy journey. In Toronto, a gearbox failed, with Penske teammate Fittipaldi out just moments later. But at Rogers track, in the Michigan 500, Paul carried the Penske banner to the front. Lap after lap, he would battle with fellow Canadian Scott Goodyear. Tracy came home in second place, but he had proved his value. Buoyed by that run, Fittipaldi picked up the Penske pace and commanded the run at Cleveland's Burke Lakefront Airport. But the joy quickly turned at Road America when Paul took this frightening ride just after taking his first pole. With Paul uninjured, Penske cars led the field to the green flag. But struggling with temperamental brakes, Paul Tracy found the giant circuit more than a handful. Off-course forays sent him down in the standings. Fittipaldi made it 2 wins in a row. Today in Vancouver, Paul must be smooth, and Emerson must win to keep his championship hopes alive. At Rogers' team, it's Penske performance time. ESPN, the world's leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. The IndyCar engines have fired in British Columbia, and we're ready to go racing in the Molson Indy Vancouver. Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Page, and the heat is on at Penske Racing. On Friday, Paul Tracy just ricocheted slightly off a wall, but it was enough damage to the car to have to ship it back to England. That left Penske Racing with just 2 cars for the weekend. It's so important that Emerson Fittipaldi take a championship that Roger Penske grounded Paul Tracy for the weekend. Told him he would not practice or qualify at all on Saturday. And Derek, there are other drivers with other approaches.
Well, that's right. If you look at the style of Bobby Rahal, he's a very measured, very controlled driver, very technical racing driver. He usually uses all the races of the year to gather up his points in his bid for the championship. Look at Alonso Jr. Never really spectacular in qualifying, but in a straight head-to-head race battle, Alonso Jr. has that ability to snatch success even in remote situations. Look at Michael Andretti. Very spectacular, he's fast, he's very exciting. But last year when he won the championship, he got most of his points at the second half of the season. Now the same situation is here for him again this year. However, he's further back than ever. So he now knows that to win the championship, he really has to win races. So there's a no-holds-barred approach this afternoon for Michael.
So the fight for the championship continues now in Vancouver. Indy cars sitting on the pit straight here, ready for the command to start engines. They do have a slight delay owing to weather in the Vancouver area. Here's the diehard starting grid. On the pole, Michael Andretti, the defending champion at Vancouver, joins 18 others who bested the track record. Alongside is Emerson Fittipaldi, looking for 3 wins in a row. In the second row, it's Bobby Rahal, the current PPG points leader, and Mario Andretti. In row number 3, it's Al Unser Jr., currently second in the points, the 1990 winner here, and Aspen, Colorado's Eddie Cheever. In row number 4, it's Robbie Gordon, Cheever's rookie teammate, and Stefan Johansson, a rookie from Monte Carlo. In row number 5, Scott Pruitt, who is now searching for a ride next year, and John Andretti. In the 6th row, Raul Boesel driving for Dick Simon, and Danny Sullivan on the outside. In the 7th row, 2 Canadian contenders, Penske driver Paul Tracy and Scott Goodyear, the Michigan 500 winner. In row number 8, Munich, Germany's Christian Danner and Scott Brayton. In the 9th row, rookie Jimmy Vasser and Ted Trappis, both in 91 Lolas. In the 10th row, Vail, Colorado's Buddy Lazier and Japan's Hiro Matsushita. 2 more Canadians in the 11th row, kart rookie Ross Bentley and veteran John Jones. And alone in the 12th row, Benicio Salmi. IndyCar Chief Steward Wally Dallenbach is out checking the track. It looks like it will be declared as a wet start here, which may give the team some options. Let's go pit side and Gary Gerald.
Paul, that is exactly the case. Wally, in fact, has declared a wet start, meaning that all of the teams down here in the starting grid have put away the slick tires and have gone to the treaded rain tire. Now, they have put these tires on, and by declaring a start, what this means is, even though it has stopped raining, there's moisture on the track, they must take the green flag with the rain tire. Then, if they want to, they can make the decision to go back to the slicks, but they must take the green. There's been a lot of conjecture here in the last couple of minutes on pit road as to whether or not they would come in during a parade lap. They cannot do so. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Well, Gary, it's not raining quite as hard down here now, so of course there's a lot of confusion as to what might happen. But something else to keep in mind, Michael Andretti had an engine problem. He actually had a cam cover that broke, exactly the same problem he had in the last race. They've changed the engine. They will not know until they fire that car up if that engine is going to perform today. Paul?
So many questions to be answered here as you see Michael Andretti, and we're ready to start the engines. Michael Andretti spins his car into action. On Bobby Rahal's car, the starter is ready to spin up, and revs come up to 10,000 RPM as they warm these engines. There's Buddy Lazier. He sits and ready to go. The front row, of course, Emerson Fittipaldi, and on the pole, Michael Andretti. In this morning's warm-up session, Raul Boesel was the fastest. Bobby Rahal was second quick. Eddie Cheever third quick. Now, the presumption is in most cases that's on a full fuel load.
Yes, we do think it is on a full fuel load. However, it's a very good measure of what possibly could be in store for race conditions. So Boesel, who was trying a new turbo on that car this morning, very happy with this morning's run.
So now, with Johnny Rutherford as the driver of the pace car, the PPG safety cars begin to move away in front of this field on a temporary circuit here, right off the edge of Falls Creek, a former site of a World's Fair here. And onboard cameras today. Well, Scott Goodyear, of course, will be looking over his shoulder. Al Unser Jr., we have a camera that looks right in his eyes as he works around this track. And then Bobby Rahal looking from the rear of his car. You can see the moisture accumulating on the lower control arm of that car. But it appears that the rain has left the area. Some moisture, too, on the front of the camera that is on Scott Brayton's car. For the moment, though, it looks like the skies are trying to clear, Derek.
They're trying to clear, but this racetrack, this surface, even with a small amount of moisture, is incredibly slippery. So there's a lot of cars that will go through turn 1 and the hairpin in the opening laps in a very difficult tippy-toe situation.
All right, so the field is now circling around very carefully, getting their first hints of what this course may in fact hold in store for them with a damp sky and a damp track. We'll be back for the start right after this. The first of 3 preparatory laps already complete behind the pace cars. And this track here is 10 turns, 1.677 miles around.
And a very unusual street racing circuit. Quite bumpy, very slick when wet. Just over 1.5 miles, 2 hairpins at each end, 2 difficult chicanes, turns 5 and 7 here. But top speeds in the dry here were in excess of 180 miles an hour on the run to turn 2 in qualifying.
2 very critical passing areas on this course. Let's take a look at what is on the line here today. We've already indicated the course length. 100 laps, 167.7 miles. Michael Andretti is the defending champion with a pretty good race record. The real key here is the fuel window. 38 to 42 laps, but Derek, they could really come in much earlier than that if they had to, and in fact, the fuel here could be critical.
Well, the fuel could be critical. This is one of the most difficult racetracks here on fuel, believe it or not. The reason being, there are so many slow corners that these cars have to accelerate out from a low speed. When you accelerate the mass of this racing car, it uses a lot of fuel.
All right, the weather here today, right now it is cloudy. A little rain shower passed through, but when we look to the mountains, it looks like it's going to clear out here, and we will have perhaps a clear race all day. The points fight as it continues, where there you see Bobby Rahal. He'll leave this track still with the points lead, but the points battle is beginning to close down. And in laps led thus far this season, Michael Andretti has been the most dominant factor without question, and laps led by engine because of Michael's handling. Well, look at that. But of course the winds don't necessarily reflect that particular graph. So let's go to the pits once again. Here's Gary.
Paul, you were talking this morning about the warm-up session that was under wet conditions to start with and then began to dry. You mentioned Bosell and Rahal set the pace. The Penske camp took a very conservative approach. Paul Tracy ended up with the 6th fastest warm-up time. Emerson was in the number 10 spot. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Well, Gary, the sun's starting to come out and it's starting to get warmer, and of course those cars are on the rain tires. If you take a close look at those, these small blocks of very soft tread that they would use in the rain will overheat very easily and they will start to chunk. If we take a look here what the crews are getting ready for, it's starting to dry. Everyone is getting ready here with slicks. I would say, look, judging by the pit lane, we may only see a lap or two of green. They might come immediately in for those slick tires. Paul?
That would seem quite likely, because look at here as we look at the rest of this course. Not only can we see that it is dry in this area, but you can see shadows on the track showing you that the sun has come out overhead.
I'll guarantee you within about 5 laps it will be harum-scarum time in that pit lane, because looking out from the booth here you can see, and clearly in Alonso Jr.'s car, the light gray area is the dry pavement. These wet weather tires will not last long in these conditions.
Still running single file as we take a look at the 92 winners thus far and how they have fared. And there is the evidence of that tremendous PPG points fight leading us to the championship at the end of the season. And of course here at ESPN we will cover right up to the end of the season in the IndyCar straight on through. Now Johnny Rutherford does have the pace car. They interestingly switched the pace car at the last moment. Johnny had opted for a convertible, and then when it started raining, while they were changing the race cars to rain tires, Johnny grabbed the Cadillac and said, I think I'll put a roof over top here.
I would say at this stage the drivers are on the radio asking the crews, what will I do? The crews then said, well, tell me what the racetrack looks like. Well, to me, now it looks pretty damp here, but overall the dry line, the racing line, will be dry very, very quickly here.
A lot of pressure on this man who is so accustomed to pressure as he communicates on that radio with Paul Tracy. Emerson Fittipaldi, of course, will be starting in the front row. Now they begin to assemble to their rows of 2, and we watch to the final corner as they come off of Quebec Avenue and make the turn onto the pit straight. Nick Fenora, the starter, keeps him slowed down, flashes the green. Michael Andretti jumps into the front. Emerson Fittipaldi slides into second place. Rahal is third as they head down for the first turning area. The rest of the field comes through turn 1 nice and smooth. Turn 3, really the first chance to pass. Everybody lined up single file at this point. Michael with a little bit of a lead.
And Michael got a great jump. Look at Al Jr. pokes his nose down the inside, but Michael got a tremendous jump on Fittipaldi right up. But look at the traffic jam here, Paul.
Danny Sullivan and Paul Tracy both using a second lane to come up and pass the inside. They correctly anticipated that there would be a traffic jam on the right lane going into the corner, and look at how it's benefited the two of them as they've come well forward. Michael begins to pull away from Fittipaldi. It's still very slick there, though.
Yeah, but look at that track surface beginning to get light gray. It's drying out dark here, and it's a lot of wet, damp surface here. But look at the lead Michael has already. Very brave in iffy conditions.
But this race could very quickly go to the hands of the pit crews because they are running on those rain tires. And with those kind of drying conditions, they will not be able to run them long.
And we saw somebody going into the pit lane.
Let's go to Gary Gerald.
We look for Bobby Rahal, and here he is. He's the first one to come in, and he'll go to slicks with 1 lap complete. They had to start because it was declared a wet race with rain tires. Now with the track dry, the sun back out, they've gone to the slicks, and Rahal is gone.
Carl Hogan, you got a glimpse of him, the co-owner with Bobby Rahal. Look at him slam up through those gears as now he tries to catch the field. But Derek Daly, one must presume that everyone will have to do that.
Everybody will be in within 3 or 4 laps. There will be a huge traffic jam in the pit lane within the very early laps to come.
Michael Andretti out in front. He came across the line nearly 2.5 seconds ahead of Emerson Fittipaldi at the conclusion of the first lap. But keep an eye on those tires. tires, because if you see them start to discolor, that will tell you very quickly that he's in trouble. And I would expect, there he is. Michael Andretti heads for the pits. I was about to say that he would be in any time. Jan Vikas is right there.
He brings it to a stop, Paul. They're going to change these tires. Obviously, fuel will not be a problem. This is when the crews can really change, because it is the changing of the tires time that makes a difference. I can't believe they're actually making a wing change already, yet he's only been on rain tires. Uh-oh, we have Scott Goodyear coming in. He can't get out right when he wants to. Now he's underway. Here comes Ted Travis. It is mayhem down here. Mario now also gets underway. Paul?
And Scott Goodyear comes into the pits. Again, no refueling on that car, which surprises me a little bit, Derek. I would have thought even the one lap done, as long as you've got the car stopped, you'd hook it up for fuel.
You're exactly right. Remember, not just one racing lap, 3 pace laps. So I'm surprised they didn't just put a couple of gallons in there.
Buddy Lazier, the number 21 car, works around this circuit. Emerson Fittipaldi leads it. When Rahal came off and into the pits, Al Unser Jr. moved up into second place. Now consider this one. With a number of cars stopping in the pits, Paul Tracy slides into third place. Danny Sullivan is fourth. You saw Tracy and Sullivan coming up through the rest of the field on the first lap. And Buddy Lazier, that 21 car, is fifth.
And Emerson did not stop. I'm surprised about that. Now, they must be monitoring exactly how fast Rahal is running on his slick tires. If he's not considerably faster than Fittipaldi, maybe they leave Emerson out on these wet weather tires. But I'm surprised he's out so long. I'd say he'll be in within a lap or two.
Emerson Fittipaldi already encountering traffic. And John Jones, here comes Tracy. Tracy is into the pit. Gary's right there.
Paul Tracy off the Jackson running. We've got him in 10.3 seconds as he gets out. Now they'll lay out for Fittipaldi on the next lap to come in.
So with Paul Tracy in and out, it really confuses the way this field is lined up. Like already you see people like Emerson Fittipaldi, the now leader of the race, as he is passing other cars. He's not overhauled them. He's not putting them a lap down necessarily. It's because they have been in and out of the pits. And so the front of the order is somewhat confused, but we'll tell you exactly what it is. Fittipaldi, Tracy, and then this car, Michael Andretti. This was his stop just a moment ago.
And look what happens here. Michael is waiting for the signal to go. He says, come on, let me go. Now look at this. His lead man was not able to get Michael out as quickly as he would like, but Emerson is in.
Emerson Fittipaldi is in, Gary.
Same drills being repeated here now for Emerson Fittipaldi, who started from the front row. He went further than most everybody else in the field on the west. Now he's out. We've got him at 9.8 seconds on our stop.
A total scramble for the IndyCar crews as Fittipaldi is in and out. Here's Michael Andretti on the circuit. Almost everyone now having decided that they would stop and change tires. Those not, Ross Bentley and Vinicio Salmi have not made stops. Everyone else in the field has. And so everyone is now on dry.
And Michael, who did one extra lap on those dry weather tires, just flew by Emerson as Emerson exit out of the pit lane here. So Michael, a considerable lead over Michael. And now look at Rahal right behind Emerson.
The battle begins now to reshape with Emerson Fittipaldi being chased by Bobby Rahal. And Rahal trying. Al Unser Jr. is right behind him.
Cold tires, warm tires. Remember, Emerson just out of the pit lane needs to block Rahal. Rahal knows he has a grip advantage, but it's so difficult to pass here.
Really only two good opportunities to pass, otherwise concrete canyons all the way. And Al Unser Jr. comes around Rahal, takes advantage. Here's one of the places you can pass. He gets it done. Now, that is BC Stadium just ahead as you're on the pit straight. And Al Unser Jr. looking for racing room with Fittipaldi.
And look what Emerson did. He moved to the middle of the road going in through turn one, but look at Al Jr.
A continuing battle for second place here. Fittipaldi occupies it at the moment. But here comes Al Unser Jr. with Rahal, and he flips him up into the air. Al Unser Jr. into the barrier. Fittipaldi, he's still rolling, but can he continue on? No, he's rolling to a stop as well. Two of the contenders in the points fight, and they're in trouble already.
And Al Unser Jr. made a tremendous move to pass Rahal to get up behind Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi blocked him through turn one. This is the end of the back straight, speeds of 175 miles an hour under braking conditions. Al Jr., we can see it in a replay, tries to sneak down the inside. There wasn't enough room for two cars to go in the small patch of road they both wanted.
Al Unser Jr. the first to get rolling. Here is that replay, Derek.
Again, we have a warm tire situation on Al Unser Jr.'s car. Now look at this. Emerson turns in. Watch Al Jr.'s car when they lock wheels. Up he goes. Wall of death. Lucky he didn't turn that car upside down.
very lucky man, Al Unser Jr. And look at how well those tire barriers work for him. He is back at speed. But part of the championship may in fact have been resolved in just that instant.
And of course, we saw in that gaggle of cars Stefan Johansson, but Al Jr. so lucky to get away with that. And I'm surprised he didn't go straight to the pit lane to see if there was any damage done. But amazingly, this car is still in one piece.
Michael Andretti leads the run. Bobby Rahal, after that accident, moves up to second place. Stefan Johansson is now in third. Paul Tracy is fourth, and Mario Andretti is fifth. On-board camera view, same situation.
There's the wheels interlocked. Look at this now. Look, straight into the tire wall. There's a good example how good these tire barriers are. Here it is again.
There's another replay. Same thing.
My word.
How do you assign fault in that, Derek, or can you?
Well, I don't think you can assign fault in that. That's two aggressive people looking for the same piece of road. Emerson knew what he was going to try and do, drive defensively, but Al Jr. unfortunately fully committed himself to go down the inside, and he could not get out of that situation.
And Paul Tracy together with Mario Andretti. This is fourth and fifth place, same position. Now they're beginning to fight one another just to get back on the course. Paul can sneak around behind Mario if he can get the right selection of gears.
Exactly the same corner. It's turn 3 under heavy braking. Mario looks he may have stalled that engine. Yes, I believe he did. I think he's dead for the moment.
When he rolled forward to try to get around Paul, and Paul Tracy's got a damaged car once again.
That's a bad omen. It's the right front suspension, which suggests that, well, maybe, yeah, obviously the right front made contact with Mario.
Keep an eye on it. Looks like the control arm's bent on both sides as they try to get Mario Andretti going in exactly the same place.
There is so little room on these street racing circuits. The speeds are so high between the concrete walls. You have to be so careful. Here's a really good replay here. Now it's Mario attacking Tracy down the inside. Oh, look at this. Mario locks those rear brakes. Locks the rear brakes into a spin. And Paul Tracy is an innocent victim here of an incident with Mario Andretti. No blame on Paul Tracy.
Absolutely none. He was in fact turning away from Mario. I think he sensed that there was going to be a problem there. And Mario lit up the rears. And that got him in to Paul Tracy. Now you can see the Penske team waits for Paul Tracy to make an appearance. And Gary Gerald, as he comes in, take a look at the front.
Yeah, Paul, we can see that the right front, the wheel wasn't even rotating, and there's damage over there. The engine immediately shut off. Billy Camphausen and IndyCar officials assessing at the front, as well as Roger Penske and the Penske team. But the wheel is being unbuckled, and it appears that Paul Tracy is going to be coming out of the cockpit momentarily. Well, so a tough day in what's been a tough weekend. And this time, as you say, apparently an innocent victim.
Make sure you tell Roger that before he goes over to talk to him on the car itself. So Michael Andretti now has the lead. There's Roger Penske, anxious to talk to his driver, Paul Tracy. Bobby Rahal runs in second place. Johansson is third. Now with all the action of the first 10 laps of this race, we're now at lap number 12. Here is the interval back from the leader of the race, Michael Andretti. Well, no battle for Michael, but Bobby Rahal and Stefan Johansson are locked in a great fight right now. Now let's go down pit side. Paul Tracy, who needed so much a very smooth day, Paul's innocent victim, Gary.
Well, Paul, I know that everything in the replay showed that this time you're just totally an innocent victim, and it's got to be frustrating. How did you see it unfold?
No, I really didn't see it. You know, it's just, you know, all I can feel right now is just things seem to get from bad to worse for me. And the car was handling great, the Marlboro car, and, you know, we had a good strategy. We moved up to third quick, and we're just cruising. You know, I didn't see what happened. All I know is somebody climbed over the top of me under the braking down at the hairpin, so...
I know it's been tough mentally to deal with all of these different types of distractions and the frustrations. Hope you can keep it all together for Mid-Ohio. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We'll be back for sure, you know. We'll be back.
Thanks, Paul. Let's go to Jan Bikas.
Well, Gary, we have checked in on Al Unser Jr.'s car. We've checked into the Gallus-Craco team. What we have checked into is he flew through the air. We're thinking that car must be damaged. We checked in with Alan Mertens, the designer of that car. He's now running competitive lap times. Of course, he's dropped to 13th. But believe it or not, nothing wrong with that car. Shows how strong that chassis is, the Galmer chassis. Paul?
Back at the front of the field, it's Michael Andretti. Right behind him, Fittipaldi. But Fittipaldi is actually in 16th place, 1 lap behind the leader. But for the past several laps, he has been able to keep pace with Michael Andretti. And as a matter of fact, on the last lap, turned the fastest lap that has been run thus far in the race at 106.5 miles an hour. And despite all the trouble, they are running at a record pace, 99.3 miles an hour, which compares to 93.8 as the record last year.
Mario obviously in good shape as we go on board with Scott Goodyear.
The Quaker State onboard camera. Young Canadian being forced to drive in last year's model.
Last year's car, 91 cars. Timing is everything, they say, no matter what you do. But the timing was so bad for this team when they damaged their 92 vehicle last weekend at Elkhart Lake.
So now Mario Andretti, after that contact with Paul Tracy that put Paul out, Mario came into the pits. They checked the car, did a change of tires, and they put Mario back into the fight. His son Michael, car number 1, leads this field. Bobby Rahal runs in 2nd. Stefan Johansson runs in 3rd place. That battle for the moment has broken off, but they could reattack one another at any moment. Robbie Gordon is also having a wonderful day, running in 4th. And Eddie Cheever beginning to show off in 5th place.
We see Jimmy Vasser now chasing down Mario Andretti. Mario had a great run here in qualifying. He had a great quote afterwards that the only problem he had was there was 3 people faster than him. So Mario never changes, always wants to be number 1. Look at Johansson behind Rahal.
Looking out the back through the suspension, actually, of Bobby Rahal's car. We'll ride here as long as we can. Sometimes you can't, because as they pass alongside BC Stadium, they actually go under a section of the stadium, and that takes the onboard camera out of receiver range. But Rahal is trying to hold off Johansson, and Johansson is having a terrific run.
Great run, was really good when they went to slick tires. He went on early. In fact, he was the 2nd car to change to slicks, and that really worked to his advantage.
There's the leader of the race, Michael Andretti. Fittipaldi 1 lap behind, just behind Michael. Not in the fight, but trying to get his lap back. Here is 2nd and 3rd place, Rahal and Johansson.
And a great fight here. Look at these cars, the way they bump over this street surface. Under braking in particular, Johansson seems to be very, very good.
Listening to Bobby Rahal as he slices up and down through the gears. Johansson closes right in under braking, but Rahal gets to the corner a little smoother and therefore is able to accelerate better off of the corner. But look at Johansson.
Looks to me as if Johansson may be just a smidgen quicker than Rahal, but it's so difficult to pass here. Look at these long, winding right and left turns here on this 1.5-mile racetrack. So Johansson happy to follow Rahal at the moment, but a great run in Tony Bettenhausen's car.
There was one of the chances Johansson might have had to pass. Another comes up in turn 3. Let's consider this, though. Rahal is now racing with someone with whom he is not totally familiar. This is the first time they have been side by side. So for Rahal, he must play it very carefully, or you could have a repeat of some of those other situations that we had earlier that so adversely affected Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi, who are also contenders in the points fight. At the moment, Michael Andretti's looking solid. It seems like everybody in Vancouver has a sailboat. In fact, in this beautiful city, you can snow ski up in the mountains in the morning in the spring, and then come down and sail your sailboat in the afternoon. Stefan Johansson continues to work on Bobby Rahal, an ongoing battle for 2nd place. Michael Andretti is the leader, then Rahal, then Stefan Johansson. Look at this. Robbie Gordon is in 4th. His teammate, Eddie Cheever, runs in 5th place. The center of the fight, though, remains with Rahal and Johansson. But here is Danny Sullivan. You got a glimpse of him with Scott Pruitt just behind him in a fight for 6th place. So it's, well, now Pruitt moves up to close in again. That's Raul Boisel there as well.
Oh, Pruitt is all over Sullivan. Sullivan had a problem in qualifying. He spun the car, very lucky not to do heavy damage. He chased the setup in this car for a long time during the sessions here. In fact, one of the good things of having 2 good drivers is Sullivan went one way, Al Jr. went the other, and then last night they picked the best of the 2. Look at Pruitt.
Boisel got around Pruitt for 7th place, so now Boisel is on pursuit with Danny Sullivan. You were just saying that. If you're talking with the Gallus Craco operation, Sullivan and Al Unser Jr., you're talking about a team that came to this track with a car that normally likes to run the track stiff, but it didn't like this track at all, so they split the team and went in 2 different directions.
Exactly, and Scott Brayton loses it, backs up into the escape rope, but he is okay, loses it underpowered, looked like, leaves 2 black streaks there as he accelerates away, but all looks okay.
Scott Brayton back under full power as he heads towards the underpass in the stadium. We were talking about how they split forces at Galles Greco.
That's right. What they did last night for a final race setup, as we watched Scott Brayton here, they picked the best of what Al Jr. found, the best of what Sullivan found, but unfortunately the rain came this morning, so they weren't sure exactly the package they would go into the race with.
Under the viaduct by the Canby Bridge there, Scott Brayton. Now the question is, did he spin hard enough that he finds it necessary to go into the pits? And the answer is no. Let's take a look at this same situation from the onboard camera. We'll do that in just a second as we continue to watch Scott Brayton. I'm a little surprised. It looked like what we saw at the end of the spin. Here we'll see the whole thing and get an idea of whether or not he should have stopped.
Oh, look what happens. He actually gets it crossed up and locks the brakes on the way in. Has a slow, lazy slide. Luckily, he didn't hit that tire wall that Al Jr. hit earlier on. But the one thing his spin can do is put a driver off his stride, and it takes him a lap or 2 to get back into the swing of things again.
Back at the battle for 6th place, Danny Sullivan and Raul Boisel. Remember, Boisel was quickest in the morning warm-up. They've both been battling with Scott Pruitt. Boisel got moments ago around Pruitt, and now is going to try Sullivan. Gets him to the inside. Boy, Boisel, look at Sullivan. Sullivan, as they turn onto the pit straight, comes right back to the inside.
A risky move by Boisel, but now look at Pruitt tries to gain an advantage. But Boisel, we saw him slide down the inside and was not able to make the turn. Sullivan knew that. He moved wide, turned the car, got on the power before Boisel. Great racing here in Vancouver.
The exchange almost too costly for Boisel, as now Danny Sullivan is back in 6th place. But Raul definitely let him know that he's right there. And that exchange came to the benefit of Sullivan, or to the benefit of Pruitt, because up to that point, they were actually pulling a bit away. Now, when we're talking, there's Boisel, as Danny Sullivan pulls totally off the pace. And both Pruitt and Boisel comes past.
Sullivan must be in trouble. They pass. Yes, very slow. Sullivan is in major league trouble on his way to the pits.
When you're looking at a guy like Boisel, you're looking at the Dick Simon team, a team that develops their own cars.
They do, in fact. The side parts are totally different on their Lola than any other Lola. Very like the Galmer car. So whatever they saw on the Galmer car designed by Alan Mertens, they liked it. And now it's on Boisel's and also Scott Brayton's car and Matsushita's.
There's Bobby Rahal as we're going to look again. This is what caused Danny's problem.
Okay, let's have a good close look. Does he clip the wall? Oh, he clips the wall with the left side suspension. Now, that's why he's slow. That will definitely send him for some surgery to the pit lane.
Let's go down to Danny's pits now, and Gary.
Paul, we get our first look, and on the left front side, you can see where apparently there was some damage. I don't believe, no, that wheel was flat, not rotating when they came in. They're making the tire changes and have intentions of getting him out. There was concern there might have been a gearbox problem as well. We'll find out if that problem exists now as he accelerates and leaves the pits. Everything looking pretty good as he leaves underpowered, full power.
So hopefully Danny Sullivan can come back up to full speed and fight his way back through this field. Here's this continuing battle for 2nd place. Johansson still worrying Rahal. And with Rahal where he is in the points position, what should be his tactic in handling up Johansson?
Well, if I was Rahal and Johansson took a big lunge,
that's Danny Sullivan's tire.
That is Sullivan's tire that hit the wall. It is well flattened, well used up. In fact, I don't know whether I even see a blister on that tire or not.
I was running pretty good until I got into the wall. Didn't design for that part.
Yeah, he could come back, but remember, all he needed was about 1 more inch. That's the area there that hit the concrete barrier. 1 more inch, he would have escaped.
Update on Danny Sullivan from Gary.
Well, they're saying that he said on the radio that the car apparently jammed as he tried to hit 2nd gear, and that problem then necessitated or apparently resulted in that loss of control when he nicked the wall.
Well, it wasn't much of a loss as we look at someone definitely under control, Stefan Johansson. He tries another run on Rahal in one of the passing areas on this track. There are only 2 that you can really get past.
We were just about to say, what if Johansson makes a big lunge down the inside? If I was Rahal, I'd let him go. Remember, Rahal needs points for this championship fight. Johansson has nothing to lose. Johansson is very good under braking, and I know he would like to have that second place.
And even if Rahal would roll to a stop at this moment, he has such a pad that he will leave this race still as the points leader no matter else what happens.
Exactly, but his biggest problem is Michael is leading. You have to be very careful. Johansson looks in a very threatening situation in the Amex-backed car.
It's been 24 laps since all of the field came into the pits to replenish tires. 24 laps. We are now 1/4 of the distance to the 100 laps. As we take a look at Michael Andretti, 100 lap distance, 167.7 miles. Michael Andretti is in the lead, and Rahal is still trying to hold off Johansson. Back in Vancouver, the continuing battle for second place is Stefan Johansson chasing Bobby Rahal. Johansson tends to lose a little distance coming through the first turn, but then is able to close right back on Rahal. But what he gains on the backside, he seems to lose between the pit straight and the second corner.
He absolutely does. Oh, he's going down the inside. Oh, he doesn't make it.
He locks the front. He touches Rahal. Rahal head on into the barrier. Exactly what everyone would fear on that team. If he can't get that car out, then Rahal earns no points. So we have a serious situation there with Rahal, serious in terms of the points. Corner worker's there and says he's okay. You can see that. But Rahal's nose is stuck in the barrier. And look at the front suspension, Derek.
Rahal is trying to get a push out to try and get back to the pit lane. Look at, he's on the radio. Now Johansson goes down the, oh, it lifts Rahal's car right up into the air. Almost the same has happened to Al Jr. earlier on. When these wheels interlock at these speeds under braking, that's what can happen. But Rahal sits there. Here's another good look here. Now look at Johansson. He locks the brakes right there. Now he can't get out of it. His right front is in front of Rahal's left rear. Lifts him up, and Rahal goes straight into the tire barrier. Rahal's day is over, and Johansson, to me, looks as if he's still in good shape.
But exactly what you suggested. If you were Rahal, wave the guy past. Carl Hogan, the owner and co-owner with Bobby Rahal.
I would have to say,
full course yellow.
I would have to say that Rahal was taken by surprise. I don't believe he expected Johansson to make a move in that position. And
Dr. Terry Trammell outworking the course today as he is pulling some debris away from the front of the car. And Rahal's going to try to get it back to the pits, but it should only be to roll onto the trailer.
Exactly. That car is too badly damaged. It would take way too much time to fix that. Even though you get points all the way down to 12th place, I think they're just going to pull him back, take him into a safe position, and his day is over.
Let's go down a little further on the pit road, get an update on the situation with Robbie Gordon. Here's Jan Beekes.
Robbie Gordon has brought his car on pit road. He's currently running third as his teammate comes in, Eddie Cheever. He is running a 91 car, just like Stefan Johansson. We asked Tom Anderson why the 91 car is all of a sudden right coming to the front. He says it's because of the fuel issue. The pace of the race, Paul, is coming back to them. Everyone else is throttling back. The 91 cars are going quicker.
Well, the pace of the race, average speed until the yellow flag, was up over 100 miles an hour, which is a full 7 miles an hour faster than the race record last year. Debbie Rahal concerned about her husband. He's all right, but the car is damaged, and he will be out of this run without a point.
Of course, what Debbie doesn't know is that all she will have heard is that he crashed straight head on into the guardrail. She can't see our monitor, so she doesn't exactly know what happened.
Here it is once again. This is the pursuit by Johansson.
Now,
looking through Rahal's suspension.
He's coming down the inside. Now he can't get out. There's the smoke from Johansson. There he hits Rahal straight into the guardrail.
So Debbie Rahal concerned for her husband as Michael Andretti, with all of this happening behind him, has a full 5-second lead over now second place Stefan Johansson. Park in Vancouver has one of the biggest collections of totem poles in British Columbia. It's a beautiful park on the peninsula, surrounded by all the magnificent water and a lovely place to stay. Here is Bobby Rahal trying to get started. And look, Derek, he wants to get back to the pits as fast as he can. Apparently, he thinks that's fixable.
He might just do that. He's shouting, let's go, go. I want to get back to the pit lane. At least give us a chance to fix the car. There's points into the top 12 positions.
Let's go to Jan.
Paul, as those tires came off the car, this is Scott Pruitt's car. They're having a problem, some cars, with blistering of tires. Take a close look here. What's happening? This is a new compound this year that they use from Detroit. We have some weather today to where they're getting a lot of grip. You talked about the pace of the race. Obviously, the pace of the race is taking the toll on tires. They are short on fuel here. What that means, Paul, is they run like crazy through the corners, really push it through the corners because they're trying to save fuel. That's what I was talking about, the 91 cars coming back to the pace of the race. So the tires has sped up the pace of the race, but yet it's made it more competitive than ever. Paul?
All right, Jan, let's consider something here as Bobby Rahal comes in and the crew will look that over. But Jan Beekes, while I have you, everyone made their stop on lap number 30. One would consider that to be way early. They were taking advantage of the yellow, the full course yellow. What do you think that's going to do to the tactics to the end of the race?
Well, actually, the fuel window was between 23 and 40, so it won't actually change the strategy whatsoever. They will actually be right on target. So now, of course, that they know what's happening to the tires, they have to say, not only, guys, do you have to save fuel, but now be careful of the tires, because this word will go up and down the pit lane.
You saw Jim Prescott as he took a look at the front of the car and shook his head. Bobby Rahal, of course, climbed out quickly, and so Bobby Rahal's day is done without a point. For IndyCar driver, there's a great deal more to do than just push the pedals and steer the automobile. Jan Beekes takes a look at the adjustments he can make from inside the cockpit.
With any high-performance car, whether it be a street car or an Indy car, they utilize an anti-roll bar. But in an Indy car, it's adjustable from the cockpit. Let's take a look at the function of an anti-roll bar. As the car would have a tendency to lean as you would come into a corner, this spring would compress, this one would droop, so therefore this would come up and this would come down. If you were to tie the two together with these rods, if it would roll, it would try and flex or twist the actual anti-roll bar. The stiffer that is, the more resistance, the less roll. Let's look at how it's adjusted. Right now, this is the full stiff setting. If we move it to the full soft setting, instead of twisting the bar, now it's the blade that actually flexes and allows the car to roll more into the corner. Now, in recent years, there's been some suspension design changes up in the front, which actually raises what they call the roll center. That causes the car to actually roll less. And because of that, it's become commonplace to actually remove this rod and not to use the bars at all. Now, of course, it makes the car handle great, but if you're a race driver, you're out on the racetrack, the handling goes off, you've got no way to change the car until you come into the pits for a pit stop.
Well, on this car, the anti-roll bars won't help.
That's right, but in a wet-dry situation like we had here today, the anti-roll bars do get used because they go to the full soft position, usually when it's very wet, trying to get maximum grip. Then when it dries out, you go back to that stiff position that they normally like.
We are still under a full course yellow. Michael Andretti is still the leader of the race as we ride with Scott Goodyear. And Michael Andretti has led 28 out of 30 laps as they head toward the green flag once again. Nick Venaro gives it to him, and we are back into the fight. Michael Andretti now has Stefan Johansson right behind him.
There's Johansson there. He's actually in mid-pack. Mario's shadowing Michael at the moment, but look at Brayton takes a little sneak down the inside.
Scott Pruitt leading the field around. Mario just behind his son. There's Johansson coming through. Caught a glimpse of the orange and thought that Mario was in fact Johansson. So Johansson has some distance to be able to make up if he is going to catch the leader of the race. But Bobby Rahal, the points leader, is out and is with Gary Gerald.
Indeed. Frustrated, obviously. It was Johansson.
Not frustrated, disgusted with, I mean, the guy's not even in the hunt for the championship, and he takes the championship leader out, you know, and...
What happened?
Well, I went to the corner, and he tried to dive underneath me, obviously, and just, you know, hit me right in front of my left rear wheel, and that flipped me up and put me right into the guardrail.
I guess if there's an upside, you still go out of here regardless with the championship lead.
That's no upside. You know, the thing is none of my other contenders have been taken out like that by somebody who didn't count for the championship. You know, now this, you know, we're still leading, but it's a whole new ball game, and it was by someone who really had nothing to gain or to lose by making as aggressive a move as he did.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what, it may still be possible, though, as Scott Pruitt is battling with Michael Andretti, and he just about cut across the front nose of Michael a moment ago.
Well, we saw Michael get sideways under braking down at turn 3 there in an attempt to get under Scott Pruitt. He didn't get the job done. Michael will definitely be heated underneath his helmet trying to find a way. Look, he still can't find a way past Pruitt.
Pruitt takes a fast exit off of that last bend, and Michael Andretti is right there, no doubt thinking, come on, let me on through. These two have done this before. Remember Portland a year ago, the same situation where there was a concern that Pruitt was in fact holding Michael Andretti up. There is Michael's father, Mario, running just behind him, but he is not on the leader lap. Stefan Johansson runs in second place. In third is Eddie Cheever. Al Unser Jr. is in fourth. So two of the key points fighters are up in the front with Bobby Rahal out. Look how the points would close if the race ended at this moment.
A whole new championship just started when Rahal hit the guardrail, because 12 points is nothing in the chase for the championship with 3 races left to go.
The interesting thing is that Michael Andretti is defining this championship right now through his driving. But as all of the teams have suggested save Rahal, they needed Rahal to make a mistake. The mistake has been made, not necessarily Rahal's, but nevertheless Rahal is out.
And Rahal will only see it his way, and Johansson will see it his way, saying, hey, I had to go for it because I considered I was faster than Rahal. Drivers have a habit of seeing it just his way, but look at Al Jr. now, all over the back of Eddie Cheever. That's Cheever right ahead of him. Al Jr. now about to get him all the trouble he needs.
This battle is for third place. Al Unser Jr., that Galmer chassis. Now, it's a brand new chassis this year, but Derek, actually, it's been a pretty good year for the car.
You know, a lot of people talk about this car saying, yes, it is good and it is bad sometimes. Really, where have you ever seen a new car get designed that wins 2 races in its first year? So in fairness to Alan Mertens, I think this has been a very successful year. Oh, look at Bozell.
Bozell obviously caught the wall and caught it hard, and I would suspect, given position and debris, this will perhaps bring out a full course yellow. Waving yellows in the area. Take a look at the front of that car. I'll give us an idea. There are the first corner workers there, but he's in a most precarious position. Look at the safety workers pull back out of the way.
Very dangerous place. The local yellow right now, if the corner workers can move him, which they can, it will not become a full course yellow. Yes, they do. They do a very good job here.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised they're able to get that car going. Now we go back to the fight, and this is a 3-way battle for second place. Johansson has second. There he is. And right behind him is Eddie Cheever. And just behind Cheever is Little Al, as there goes Cheever.
Oh, Cheever made a brave move, and he pulled it off. 2 men here trying to make a point, trying to make a statement. Cheever is a free agent for next year, but wants to show how good he is, and this is his forte. Street racing and dogfights.
Slow traffic just ahead, both of them, as the fight continues, and now Little Al is going to challenge Stefan Johansson as they come under the BC Stadium. Cheever is able to pull out a little bit, and Little Al is charging at the back of Johansson. Let's see on this next corner if he has any chance of getting him. They close down, go under braking.
Now, Johansson may have some damage from that incident he had with Bobby Rahal, because he was so good under braking in particular. Now, Cheever didn't pass him under braking, but we're going to watch how Al Jr. chisels away at about 2 or 3 car lengths lead that Johansson has at the moment.
Al Unser Jr.'s next big chance is turn 3, a very fast section of the course here. He works his way through turn 1.
Now, this is where Cheever passed him. He came up along behind him here. He's not going to get by Johansson here, though. Al Jr. is not.
So Al Unser Jr. tries to the inside of Johansson. Can he hold? He locks the brakes up. Al Unser Jr. takes Johansson very, very wide and moves into third place. So exactly where we suspected it might happen, there it is.
Literally muscled his way past. In fact, Johansson did not want to let go, but I believe they touched. I think those 2 cars touched under braking.
So Johansson doing battle both with Eddie Cheever and then with Al Unser Jr. 2 drivers unfamiliar with him at the front of the field. Well, and you're absolutely right.
Al Jr. was out of control there. He's lucky he hit Johansson, because he was about to run straight on. Lucky he got away with that incident. Al Jr. locked his brakes and was not going to be able to turn into that apex. Johansson was lucky he got away with that too.
The fight continues at the front of the field, but all of this fight is serving to the advantage of the leader of the race. He's led right from the beginning, Michael Andretti, who is now a full 13 seconds ahead of the new second place, Eddie Cheever. Here in Vancouver, in historic Gastown, Hotel Europa, one of the oldest standing buildings in Vancouver. And look at this, a steam-powered clock. The first steam-powered clock in the world, and it still runs down in Gastown here in Vancouver. Michael Andretti, look at that interval, 15.2 seconds ahead of Eddie Cheever, but that entire fight that is revolving around second place is wonderful. If it ended right now, Bobby Rahal would have only a 13-point pad over the second place positioner in the points fight, and that would be Michael Andretti.
Now there's a bit of a frustration level growing here for Eddie Cheever. He's following Scott Brayton. Now Scott Brayton is running in 9th place. Cheever does not seem to have the ultimate speed he needs to get by Brayton, but Al Jr. has now made 3 major lunges to try and pass Cheever, and Johansson is back up again with the back of Al Jr.
Fight continues, and it's a terrific one as you look back through the suspension of Scott Brayton's car at that 3-way battle for second place. Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
Tony Bentonhausen, the question, was there damage with the contact that Stefan had with Rahal?
Yes, he says the car is handling quite badly right now. He's just trying to hang on. We apparently must have been a tie rod in the front end or something.
So what is the plan? You're just going to leave him out to do as best he can, or can you fix anything?
Well, if we got a yellow flag, we might attempt to change the tie rod, but with it stained green like this, he's just going to have to hang on to it as best he can.
Did Stefan say anything about the incident? Because Rahal was very vocal about being taken out of the championship.
No, we couldn't see anything here, and all we knew was what we saw on the big screen here. So no, he didn't say anything about it.
How are your nerves as an owner sitting on this side of the wall?
Oh, it's all right. We're just hoping for a good effort today with Amex Energy and Metals PC20.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks.
On the pit straight, riding with Al Unser Jr. as he continues his fight with Eddie Cheever. Scott Brayton has been just a bit ahead of them, and that's slowed up this battle, but it's managed to compress everyone down on top of Brayton.
Great fight here, but just a quick mention about Tony Bettenhausen. They asked him what's it like being an owner. It must be more nerve-wracking being an owner. Tony's hand was shaking during the interview.
It sure was. Scott.
This is a great fight here. Just a another crash.
2 more cars together. That's Sullivan and Jimmy Vasser.
Jimmy Vasser, and they are well locked together. Now Sullivan's car engine is stalled.
Danny's angry, very angry. This is what happened.
Oh, Vasser loses it all by himself. Now look at this. Sullivan has nowhere to go. Just runs into him. I don't think there's much damage to Sullivan's car. Hopefully he kept the engine running.
Shouldn't be if both of them can get back in the fight.
No, Sullivan's engine is not running, or else he doesn't have reverse gear, but I'm sure he must have stalled that engine.
Should have reverse gear. Sullivan now with the IndyCar safety team right there. As Fittipaldi comes past, they move back out to the car so they can help to get Danny underway once again. And here comes that battle for second place.
Whoa.
As the yellow flags fly everywhere.
Look at that.
Danny gets it going again.
And course marshals running all over the place trying to get away from this fight because they know how much of a fight this is. But Cheever is not able to get by Brayton. It's making a great race for us, though.
So the 3-way battle for second place continues. Jan Bikas, you have an update.
Well, I sure do, Paul. Chip Ganassi has been going crazy down here trying to get a hold of cart officials for the last 4 or 5 laps to get Scott Brayton out of the way. As we know, this is a very difficult track to overtake on, and you can see now what's happening. That's really tightening up that battle for second place. So they're trying, and now, of course, he's by. Paul?
Tell Chip to forget about it. Now Eddie Cheever is passed. Now maybe Rick Gallis will go to work on him.
And of course, the problem is now the driver like Brayton feels so bad. Yeah, he'll move over and let Al Jr. probably by now, and Johansson.
Well, Al Unser Jr. tried to move to the inside on the first turn, but Scott Brayton kept the pedal down all the way through. Next turning position at turn 3 coming up.
There's Al Jr.'s favorite position, turn 3. Johansson's coming through also. Hopefully Brayton sees him just about so.
Awfully close. Johansson gets through as well. But look at the advantage that Cheever has gained with the time it took both Unser Jr. and Johansson to get around Brayton, despite the fact that once Cheever came through, Brayton recognized they were all there.
Yes, the difficulty when a driver moves over to let one car through, very often he doesn't see the second car in line and he moves back over. However, Brayton was not guilty of doing anything like that.
So the battle will continue now for third place. You ride with that car, Al Unser Jr. Look, with this shot, you can actually see his eyes as he looks well down the course in front of him.
When he sees the replay of what happened to him early in the race when he almost got this car upside down, he will be staggered that he's still able to run. That car must be very, very strong.
So Michael Andretti leads it. There's Shelley Unser. Eddie Cheever is second. Al Unser Jr. third. Then Stefan Johansson and Robbie Gordon, still with a good run, maintains in fifth place. We're approaching the halfway point of this 100-lap one. As we have seen so many times before this season, the defending PPG IndyCar champion Michael Andretti has a strong lead over second place Eddie Cheever, 21 seconds. Al Unser Jr. is 22 seconds back from the leader as we look through 1 through 5. But Michael has had a trouble all season converting those laps led into wins.
The difficulty is, just like last year, he's been very successful at the back half of the year. Win is the only thing he's interested in right now.
Don't forget, later today on ESPN Sports Center, and then baseball tonight with the game following at 8 o'clock, Cincinnati versus the Mets. And we'll wrap the entire sports day up for you on Sports Center. Al Unser Jr., third place, trying to catch up to Eddie Cheever, who is having perhaps the best run of his season. Jimmy Vasser is off the course again.
Off again, Jimmy Vasser. Difficult to see whether he made contact, but here's Johansson again, back to Michael. We do not have control of these pictures, so it's a little bit more difficult.
Now, as a matter of fact, as we watch Jimmy Vasser being pushed away, most of the coverage here comes from CBC Canada. Look at this. Michael almost got caught up in that with Vasser.
I think he hits him. I'm sure he hits him. Yes, he does hit him. Puts Vasser into a spin. This is the same corner. It's turn 3 at the end of the straight. Jimmy Vasser got attacked by Michael.
Running from incredibly high speeds, from 180 down to 45 miles an hour in that corner. All of it under braking. And the brakes, of course, don't necessarily last through the entire race. Very hard to judge exactly where you're going to slow. You're looking for damage, aren't you?
I'm trying to have a good look at the front wings of Michael's car here. Here it is again. Look, he locks up the brakes, hits Vasser right there. Oh, you can hear on the audio just what goes on there, the tire squeal. But yet again, Michael has 2 speeds, fast and even faster.
It was almost as if Michael was looking for wear on the car he wanted to ricochet off, since he knew that it was going to happen. It's like he picked, let's go center on the gearbox. Let's go pit side and Jan Vikas.
Well, Paul, we took a run down here to find out immediately if Michael had called in on the radio. He has called in. There was contact, but no damage on the car. Everything should be fine. He's just blowing everybody right now. Paul?
Of course, remembering that while that certainly looks true from the camera, Michael can't really see everything that is out in front on that nose. But we can, for the moment at least, reassure him you don't see any obvious marks.
No broken bits yet, but there's a few more laps to go here. And the rate they're going here, there's definitely a lot of drivers trying to break cars, but I'm surprised there's so many of them still in good shape.
So now each of the 4 men that we mentioned at the start of this race, Michael Andretti, Al Unser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi, and Bobby Rahal, have all been involved in contact on this track. Here is Emerson Fittipaldi as he's lined up behind John Andretti. And they battled for 7th place, though they are a lap behind the leader. But that shows you is just how critical this fight for the championship is. And for Fittipaldi, who slows down,
in trouble.
He needed every point he could get. And he pulls to the side of the course.
What is
that? Now he's decided something. He's seen something.
Engine, gearbox maybe. It was actually under braking as he turned into the corner. He's in good shape here. Now John Andretti goes to the apex. I think right here Emerson knows something's broken, and from there on it's look slow, it peels right off. He knows it's over.
Yeah, probably caught some sort of computerized warning light off of his dash system. Very sophisticated now in these cars. Plus there is telemetry. Fittipaldi talking to the course marshals, and Roger Penske once again with 2 cars out of the race.
And the momentum is broken. The momentum that could have carried Fittipaldi a long way towards taking the championship from Michael or Rahal or Al Jr. has now been broken.
So now 2 of those 4 at the top of the order, Rahal and Fittipaldi, will both finish this day without a point toward the championship. The complexion is changing. And Michael Andretti is doing most of that changing.
Just look at this here. 49% of all the laps this year has been led by Michael Andretti. Early in the season, however, he did have mechanical failures and took away a lot of points. Otherwise, Michael might be leading this championship.
Further update on Fittipaldi now, Gary.
And apparently the problems relate to either transmission or gearbox, and that is what's killed the momentum after winning consecutive races at Cleveland and Elkhart. Paul?
So 3 in a row not to be for Emerson Fittipaldi. As Roger Penske gets the word from one of the IndyCar officials, you're now on board. The Quaker State onboard camera mounted on Scott Goodyear's car, the winner of the Michigan 500 this year, but driving last year's car because of damage done to his at Elkhart Lake a week ago. Michael Andretti continues to dominate as he has for so long. Good battle, though, for second. You like Chinese food? Outside of China itself, this city, Vancouver, has the second largest Chinese population. San Francisco, of course, being the first, at some great restaurants. The battle continues for second place. There's Michael Andretti. He is the leader by almost 30 seconds ahead of Eddie Cheever. In third place, and close pursuit, is Al Unser Jr. And Stefan Johansson is there as well. But Robbie Gordon, just a moment ago, suffered a problem at the edge of the circuit and has dropped off the back of this fight.
And Sullivan, we can see, got going again. Luckily, not too much damage done there. But this is a great fight here between Johansson particularly and Al Unser Jr.
Johansson, running in fourth, has been challenging Al Unser Jr. at every opportunity. There is Cheever just in front of him. So once again, the battle for second is 3 cars, and it's joined together.
And traffic, Paul, played a hand in the last time Cheever got up behind some, made it very difficult. Similar situation here. Remember, Sullivan is a teammate of Al Jr. I don't think he will slow them down. Oh, he turns in, he does.
Great veteran, but in this point, he takes his regular line through the corner. The 3 are now lined up behind Danny Sullivan. He comes a little wide, shows them some room there. See if he gives them another opportunity. Here was Robbie Gordon's situation just a moment ago.
Oh, that's it. Tries to come down the inside. Didn't quite make the full spin, but did make contact. Luckily, he got away with it.
Well, he may not have. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Well, we're standing by with Robbie Gordon in the pit lane. Robbie, what happened?
Well, you know, obviously people aren't looking in their mirrors because I was all the way inside someone. I hit him in the side pod and broke the bottom A-arm. They're not using very many yellows out here. There's a lot of traffic in between the fast guys. And unfortunately, the target car's done for the day.
Yeah, you ran as high as third, though, today. You had to be really excited.
Yeah, it was. The car was running good. And, you know, unfortunately, we got a flat tire early and put us back to 6th place. We were climbing back up, but couldn't help it.
Thanks, Robbie.
Thanks.
Paul?
58 laps are now complete. The last pit stop was made 28 laps ago. So in the pits, and look at this. There goes Cheever with a problem at the back of the car. Johansson goes past, and second place is now gone for Cheever.
And the only thing Cheever was worried about was keeping this gearbox together and staying cool. And lo and behold, what happens? The engine gives out. In fact, as he went by our booth, oh, he is, look at it, totally disgusted. See the way he threw the steering wheel away. All his efforts for the weekend comes to zero.
He had such a good run, and he wanted such a good result. Because, of course, he has been announced that he will not have a ride in this car next year. Take a look at this. This is it. Suddenly that display at the back. And I've said it's engine. Perhaps I should hesitate because a lot of that is right at the gearbox.
No, it is engine, because he went by here and already sounded as if he'd lost a cylinder.
What a terrible break for Eddie, who was doing so well and wanted the opportunity to show well here because he knows there are other employers in that stand.
Exactly, but now what happens is the Johansson-Al Jr. fight now becomes a fight for second place. Second place,
ongoing battle for second. Only 4 cars now remain on the leader lap. And with Eddie Cheever out, that too will change. And this man, nothing changes. Unchallenged. Though the interval from first to second has closed up. I'm not sure if that is a result of Michael finally realizing that he has such a substantial lead that he can take it easy. but second place has closed down 7 seconds on Michael in just the past couple of laps.
Closed down quite a bit. Michael had a tremendous effort in qualifying because although he got the pole, he actually drove without a clutch. And in qualifying, he said it's much more difficult than in a race situation, because in a race situation, if you lose a clutch, you can actually use 3 or 4 or 5 laps to get a rhythm going. You don't have that luxury in qualifying. So his pole position time was quite spectacular.
Jan Beekes, you know something more on Eddie Cheever?
Well, we checked in with the Ford people to find out what might have happened with that engine, and it turns out that they said, sounds like electrical. That definitely sounds like an answer from an engine engineer, because judging by the amount of smoke that you showed, that was definitely not electrical. We are now on our way to Andretti's pit, of course, because they run the same power plant. Let's hope the same fate doesn't befall Andretti.
Oh, I thought you were going to go over and ask the electrical guys what it was.
Yeah, tell me what electrics emits blue smoke.
Danny Sullivan locks up the brakes. He has Johansson right behind him now. That's giving Al Unser Jr. some breathing room. And Danny can play blocker for his teammate if he would care to do so. Though Danny generally is much too good a sport to do something like that.
I don't think he'll do that, but Johansson needs to get by Sullivan as quickly as possible to see can he inch up on Al Jr. Local yellows here. The yellow flag situation is still out because they're cleaning up the incident that happened with Eddie Cheever.
Eddie Cheever's car is still there. There is Mario Andretti, and now Al Unser Jr. is just behind him, and Johansson is still having his work trying to get around the teammate Danny Sullivan. But Michael still dominates. He can to get around Danny Sullivan and to get back in the fight that he must have with Al Unser Jr., who currently runs in second place. The Valvoline race recap, Michael Andretti has led all but 2 laps of this race. As a car comes off the edge of the circuit, it looked to be John Andretti. Did a quick little spin. We'll go through the rest of the recap. John Andretti over by the edge of the course. Look at the names on this list. Some of the key players in the championship battle, including the points leader, Bobby Rahal, as John Andretti, who was running 5th just prior to this situation.
Had a great run going, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. He was 8th fastest in the morning warm-up. Everything looked very good. They thought they unloaded the car here way too far off the pace and slowly gathered up about 4 or 5 positions faster every time they ran. But unfortunately, John Andretti may be over. Now, we saw the track marshals pull him back. I don't know whether they get him running or not again.
Michael Andretti, the Kmart Haviland Lola, is looking very strong here today. The one question that now must be asked, and that is one that Jan Beekes said he would in fact research, was we have seen engine failures in the like engine that is being carried in this car. Ford does all of the engines in their cars. So is there some sort of problem that might come up for Michael Andretti?
I really hope not. Now, 2 of the times that we've seen him fall out of races when he had commanding leads, there was the fuel pump belt was what broke. Not anything in the engine, but I really hope that doesn't happen to Michael here. I want to see a nice straight fight. Interesting, Michael has been so fast here all weekend. Peter Gibbons told me they went to Mid-Ohio, had a very productive test, found something in the chassis that make this car faster, and he believes that's what's showing the extra speed here this weekend. Of course, he didn't tell you what it was.
Exactly. Michael Andretti, by the way, has just grabbed off the points for leading the most laps here, adding that to his pole, so he's nibbling away at the points, looking, of course, for trying to come up with the points for winning this race. As again, through the first turn, this track circles BC Stadium here. Dome Stadium that they've had a marvelous exhibition inside that goes along with this race here. A lot of super race fans in Vancouver. They love their IndyCar racing. Let's go down to Jan Beekes once again.
Paul, we're standing by with Jim Hall, and Jim, John's pulled off the course. Do you know what happened?
Well, it looks like the gearbox gave up on John. He'd been having a little trouble with it earlier in the race. And as a matter of fact, he stopped using 5th gear early, but apparently just gave up on him. Too bad, because he was running good.
Thank you, Jim. Paul?
The drivers have, in fact, been complaining about how rough it is around this racetrack, though their times certainly don't show that, Derek. We had 18 cars break the track record. Part of that, I think, because of a repaving job.
That's right. There's two reasons. One is the repaving. It's given it more grip and less bumps. But also, Goodyear have a new tire this year that is a much higher performance tire. Everybody likes it. And that really is probably the main reason why these cars are so much faster.
Well, despite the full course yellows, we're running at 97 miles an hour, 97.7. That's 4 miles an hour faster than the track record, and that's with one full course caution in here for 5 laps.
And Al Jr. running for everything he's worth now, because he knows Al Jr. has got by Danny Sullivan, or sorry, Johansson has got by Sullivan, and Johansson is the next one behind Al Jr. So he's going to watch his mirrors as well as watch ahead of him. I think he knows that he's not going to be able to catch Michael. He hopes Michael can make a mistake or get caught in traffic.
Michael Andretti has picked the pace up just a bit as he stretches his lead out now to 32 seconds. That's the greatest lead that he's had thus far. There is Johansson and Scott Goodyear, and the corner worker is waving the yellow because Ted Trappist is in trouble. At the same point, it seems like if you get in 5th or 6th, you're in trouble here. Trappist was running 6th when this happened. John Andretti was running 5th.
The best result Trappist would have had, the highest he has run in one of these races for a long, long time, and suddenly it all comes to 0 at one of the chicanes. That's actually the second chicane.
There's Mario Andretti. His son Michael runs in 1st place. In 2nd place is Al Unser Jr. There is his teammate, Danny Sullivan, Jr.'s teammate. In 3rd place is Stefan Johansson. In 4th place, it's Scott Pruitt. And Raul Boisel is now running in 5th place. See a good view there of the mountains just across the harbor here from Vancouver. Beautiful, beautiful area.
And Sullivan now has a bit of a carrot dangling in front of him as we go back and look at Johansson still all over Goodyear.
Battle continuing there. Johansson resolves it with the Michigan 500 champion Scott Goodyear.
Around the outside he went. That's the most difficult move. I'm sure Goodyear might have let him go. A lot of work went on with Scott Goodyear's team all this week because of the accident at Elkhart Lake, but it wasn't all work because Jim O'Donnell took the whole team on a salmon fishing trip on Wednesday, flew them up in a seaplane, and Laurie Garish caught a 22-pound salmon.
So Laurie's having us all for dinner. Stefan Johansson anticipated as the first stop to be made. Al Unser Jr. is there as well. Let's go pit side and Gary.
We're trying to keep an eye up on the further pit. Unser will be leaving right now. Johansson, who had the 3rd place finish at Detroit, getting service. A lot of steam from the near side pod. Overheating. He's out in 13.7, Paul.
Al Unser Jr. was in and out as well, so 2nd and 3rd place stopped together. Michael Andretti, seems traditional for Newman Haas Racing, was able to stay out on the course and is still out there, so he should be doing any time as well.
And you hope when you make a pit stop that maybe you can catch the guy you're chasing. But Al Jr. made a pit stop at the very same time, and he has one of the best crews on the IndyCar circuit. He was in and out, and Johansson didn't gain an inch.
But look at this position, what he did lose, as here we have another car in trouble. That's Ross Bentley.
The Spirit of Vancouver car, but the Spirit's about to go sideways here because that is very ominous smoke coming from the engine department. His day is definitely done.
Matter of fact, if I was Ross, I'd get out of the car because even though it may not be on fire, they've had a problem with the hot water coming forward into the cockpit and heating up the seat. And here comes the leader in, Jan Vikas.
Our leader is here, Paul, and yes, we do see the blisters on those front tires. That right front tire had a blister. Of course, with the huge advantage he has, I see some smoke also coming out of the engine compartment right around where the pop-off valve is. A lot of smoke coming out of there, Paul. 14.8 seconds, but Paul, there's a lot of smoke coming from that engine. There could be a problem.
Michael Andretti roars down the pits back into the fight. In fact, he'll come out. There is Ted Trappist, who was in trouble just a while ago, but Michael is not coming out with the verve that he has earlier. So we'll keep an eye on Michael Andretti as the battle continues in Vancouver. The Indy cars on board, Quaker State on board camera with Scott Goodyear. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Emerson Fittipaldi has made the trek back now to the pit, talking with Rick Reineman, his crew chief, chief mechanic. Tell us about the day, Mo, and what this does to your championship hopes.
Well, I was really looking good. I was running very strong second, and when I went out, Al Junior caught me and I was on cold tires. He tried to pass me an impossible place, and he hit me on my inside and flew on top of me. And my engine just stalled there. I was ashamed because nothing happened to my car, just the engine stalled. I couldn't restart, and I lost a lap there. It was a shame because the car was really flying.
And a very tough way to lose the momentum of those back-to-back wins. Thank you, Emerson.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Jan Beekes.
Well, Gary, we checked in after the pit stop of Michael Andretti. Obviously, we were concerned about that smoke. When we checked in, they said we've had that smoke for quite a few laps since the beginning of the race. Smoke is more of a problem, obviously, if it develops all of a sudden. They say they don't know what's causing it, but since, obviously, the car keeps running, they hope that it will make it to the finish. Paul?
But it's an ill omen. We'll keep an eye on Michael Andretti's car. Emerson Fittipaldi echoing exactly what several others have said. I'm really watching the mirrors as carefully as we could, or running a little too close.
But I have to say this, it's probably electrical smoke.
Exactly. Looking back from Scott Brayton's car, that's Scott Goodyear just behind him. Now you're on board with Scott Goodyear as he stays in the fight here, currently running in 7th place and doing a wonderful job with that car. Look at these intervals. Only 3 cars on the lead lap. Michael Andretti almost 30 seconds out in front of Al Unser Jr. And little Al runs in 2nd place. Now consider, he's running in 2nd place despite this situation in the early going.
This is just the incident Emerson spoke about. This is braking for turn 3. Al Jr. is fully committed. Emerson turns in. Watch what happens here. Talk about hell drivers. I used to see that in Dublin, Ireland, and they paid me $5 at the National Stadium.
I'll tell you what, I think that's about as far as you can rotate that thing without putting over on the rollover bar.
Al Jr. will be shocked when he sees that.
You know, we've seen that not once, but twice today, Derek Daly, and you and I have done a fair share of these races. I haven't seen that for years. If the race ended right now, Bobby Rahal would lead with 162 points, but Michael Andretti would be within striking distance, as would Al Unser Jr. So that has cost Rahal dearly to be taken out so early. It's also been costly to Fittipaldi.
It really has, but happily we see Prappas made it back. We saw him, the last time we saw him, he was off the road, but Johansson still trying to reel in Al Jr.
All right, 2nd and 3rd place, Al Unser Jr., Stefan Johansson. Gary Gerald, you have some updates.
Starting with Al Unser Jr. Yes, there were blisters off one of the front tires on his car. The crew not overly concerned. They know that many teams are reporting the same kind of a situation today. Rick Gallus says we're better off with the fuel we have remaining to go these last laps, but he thinks that Michael has too much of a lead. As for Johansson, all of the steam that we saw from that one side pod on the near side of the pit wall, there were lens tear-offs from helmets that had covered that side of the radiator. There was some overheating. They hope it didn't damage the engine, Paul.
Well, Michael Andretti has completed 76 laps of the 100-lap scheduled distance. He continues to be the dominating factor in this race. Good battle, though, with 2nd place. Vancouver, a city of 1.5 million, and in fact, many ways, the harbor here is likened to that at Sydney, Australia. That's Canada Place there, and the cruise ships that come in to dock at that point. Beautiful, beautiful town. And over on Falls Creek, not far from this point, really, is this race, the Indy Cars, round 13 of the PPG IndyCar World Series in the Molson Indy Vancouver. Dominated at this point a full 32 seconds in front of 2nd place by Michael Andretti. 2nd place is Al Unser Jr. with Stefan Johansson running in 3rd. Those 3 cars, the only one together on the leader lap. Rounding out the top 5 is Scott Pruitt and Raul Boesel. Scott Brayton is 6th. Scott Goodyear is 7th. He just made a pit stop. Danny Sullivan is 8th. Mario Andretti 9th. And Ted Prappas runs 10th.
Spoke to Timmy Coffeen right after the warm-up this morning and said, why do you think Michael is so fast here? He said one of the reasons is he loves this racetrack and he loves going fast between the concrete barriers. He finds it a personal challenge. However, that was about 10 minutes before they had to almost press the panic button, because we mentioned it earlier, they had to put a new engine in this car after the morning's warm-up.
You know, we're reaching a time in the year in which if you have some new trick that you want to use in the next season, it's about time to get some race miles on it. So here in the final races, many teams will drag out some experimental ideas. And Jan Beekes, the name of the game now seems to be traction control.
That's right, Paul. We're seeing more and more technology come into IndyCar racing. And let's first talk about how traction control might work. The way that it works, first of all, this would be a wheel speed sensor. This would be placed by the hub. That would sense the speed of, let's say, a front wheel. This same sensor now goes inside the gearbox, so it can sense the rear wheel speed. Now it goes into a microprocessor, takes the difference between gearbox speed and wheel speed, and if the car starts to get wheel spin, it actually cuts out some of the cylinders. In other words, what happens is like a revometer. It starts with maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cylinders, cutting it down like a revometer, taking away the power, so therefore you don't get slippage. So now it's not the driver that controls it, it's actually the computer. But the way Michael Andretti is driving, obviously the tried and true manual method is working very well. Let's go now to Gary Gerald.
Well, Jan, here's another device. This is a pop-off valve, and you've heard a lot of talk about this device that's sometimes controversial with the teams because it controls the amount of air that's jammed into the engine in terms of boost. That generates horsepower. Al Rock has developed a little computer data recording system that fits on top of this, and working with IndyCar officials, they put this on a car, they bring it back, and if they see that this little LED flashes red, they know that there's been abnormal performance. They download the information into a laptop computer such as this, and then they get the complete readout on exactly the performance of this valve the entire time it was on a car. What IndyCar officials are hoping is that they can redesign or come up with a valve that gives more consistent, reliable performance. Interesting as they continue their ongoing testing. Paul?
Yeah, Al's also working on a smart wheel that has sensors inside the wheel, can tell you tread temperatures and air temperature and gas temperature inside the wheel. I'll tell you what, it's going a long way.
Well, these are great little new toys to play with, but they all cost money, and when one team has it, everybody has to have it, and the budget continues to go up. But on the pop-off valve, that is one of the least liked pieces of equipment that anybody thinks about on race weekend. They hate the pop-off valve.
It seems strange, too, that we're using such a mechanical device with otherwise a high-tech engine. I know they're doing a lot of work on it. And, of course, what the officials are looking for is a way to change and yet be fair and bright when you do it. They kind of, I think, are taking the attitude, this one's kind of working, let's let it alone.
Good shots here of Scott Pruitt. Have a good look at his helmet. Oh, we went away from it there, but whoever Pruitt is following or has been following closely, there's oil pouring out of the back of that car because Goodyear, or Pruitt's helmet, is yellow even at the front. But if you look at it there, there's oil smears and dirt all over the front of that helmet.
Good view of it right there. He moved around Buddy Lazier in the 21 car. Scott Pruitt has obviously been in the fight most of the day. He is another one of those drivers that knows that at the end of this season, he has no ride available to him. True Sports is shutting down, and the best indication is that he does not have any ride whatsoever. Expect an announcement on this sponsor, Budweiser, shortly, but no one expects Pruitt to be part of that announcement. And so he, too, wants to have a brilliant drive through the remainder of the season, if possible, so he can convince someone else that he's worthy of being hired.
And personally, I'd have to say I'm very disappointed to see the demise of True Sports because this is a very good car and a very good top-notch team. But unfortunately, things change in racing. Things have to move in different directions. But Scott Pruitt is probably one of the most talented free agents that will be available. Oh, look at Brayton.
Scott Brayton catches a barrier.
Big
and
time.
Gets under it this time.
I think this is the same position as Rahal hit it earlier.
Exactly. He's okay, though. Look at that. What he wants is to be pulled out, but boy, did he popped up those tires. And all he wants to do is get racing again.
Another great example of how good these tire barriers are. Yes, we do see a good shot there. What happens here? Look, he locks the front wheels. Now, when you lock the brakes, you lose your steering. There's nothing else to do except plow right into 3 or 4 or 5 sets of tires. Tire barriers are fantastic energy absorbers.
With a good piece of driving, Hiro Matsushita passed behind Cheever. He was out behind Brayton. He was outside. Now, Matsushita's to the right. Here is Brayton's situation.
Oh, look at this, look at this, look at this. Boom. He's glad that wasn't a concrete wall. Shame, really, for Scott Brayton, because he had a very good 6th place running.
Well, still in that position if the IndyCar safety team can get him restarted and get him back into the fight. Another great record crowd this year for the IndyCars. 84 laps complete. Don't forget, with the IndyCars coming up to Nazareth, Pennsylvania International Raceway, the Marlboro Challenge will be contested there. For the first time, 9 cars and driver combinations are already committed based on poles and wins alone. You'll see coverage here on ESPN. Roberto Guerrero, you see him there in the order, still looking for what car he may drive, but I think very shortly that should be resolved as well. Let's go pit side again, and Gary Gerald.
Quick word on Stefan Johansson. They're worried about fuel. We asked them about the temperature if it came down after they got the radiator inlet cleared. The temperature came down, but they say they're very iffy on fuel. They're playing it conservative now, trying to protect that 3rd place. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Well, Gary, we checked in with the Dick Simon pit, checking into Scott Brayton. They had all the tires set out. They had a new nose set out. They had everything ready to repair that car, and Scott Brayton just went right on by the pits. This is the 2nd time today we've seen a pretty major crash, but yet the car not damaged to the point to where the guy can keep running. So we do not expect to see Scott Brayton on pit road. Obviously, the car is raceable. Paul?
Well, it speaks to the benefit of those tire walls. All they are used old tires. They found it in club racing about 20 years ago. Just an idea of somebody of how they could protect the front of barriers. And boy, it has been a cheap, efficient way and saved a lot of people a ton of money and a number of people some serious injury.
Exactly. If you want to build a racetrack, the first thing you do is get as many old tires as you can, because they are fantastic.
Scott Goodyear, who has been battling with Stefan Johansson, though not a fight for position, was able to get back around Johansson. Derek, can they not apply the tire wall kind of technology? I realize it's not your area, but it would seem to me that if you can do that with something like a raggedy old tire, that maybe on super speedways you could think about some sort of absorbent barrier on the walls?
Oh, I would love to see it. In a tire situation, remember, Brayton and Rahal probably hits it about maybe 40, 50 miles an hour, so it doesn't scatter it all over the racetrack. At a super speedway, you'll hit at 220 miles an hour. You could have so much debris around the racetrack, it could be a danger zone. But you're absolutely right. I would love to see something that could absorb the energy out of these racing cars as they fly towards concrete, because they make an awful big bang and do a tremendous amount of orthopedic injuries to drivers.
You get a shot there of the Gallus-Craco driver Al Unser Jr., currently in 2nd place. He's going to have a little more help next year. Let's get an update from Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul Tracy made an impact as he came from the Indy Light Series into IndyCar racing for Roger Penske. This young man, Adrian Fernandez, out of Mexico City, has been signed by Rick Gallus as a test and development driver. He'll start testing the new Galmer chassis in late October. He will drive as many as 3, possibly as many as 10 races in the IndyCar Series next year. So changes afoot in the ranks of IndyCar racing, Paul.
And that then is using the Indy Light Series the way it was intended, to prepare drivers to come up to the Indy cars and give them sufficient high-velocity, high-powered rear-engine experience before they make that transition over to the Indy car. Congratulations to Adrian Fernandez. And Michael Andretti may have congratulations coming. In Vancouver, it's water, water everywhere, and the way they see it, it's all to play in. You name it, and they play with it on the water here, and almost year-round. Nice, mild climate and a great place to visit. The IndyCars visiting today on a temporary circuit down at what used to be the site of the World's Fair at the edge of Falls Creek, an area that they are now developing, and indications are that there will be changes to this area that might adversely affect the presence of this race here. IndyCar especially is expected to announce their new schedule just any time. Some new great cities may in fact appear on that schedule.
As we watch Al Jr. here, he was expecting to leave here and go straight to Silverstone for a Formula One test with Benetton on Tuesday. However, the phone call from Tom Walkinshaw never did come, and Al Jr. said, I'm not going to call him. If he's not interested enough to call me, then I don't need to be over there. Interestingly enough, the Benetton won the Belgian Grand Prix today.
Well, Derek, a lot of conversation early in the year about both Al Unser Jr. and Michael Andretti going to Formula One at the end of the season. Does that seem likely now for either?
I think as the season goes on, it's more and more unlikely. Now, Al Jr. and Michael are not the type of drivers that will wait around and hope to pick up the pieces that are left and try and fit in over there. If they don't go to a deal that they are wanted for their driving talents, I think you'll see both of them do a deal and stay here.
Stefan Johansson, the 16 car, runs in third place. If he finishes right here, for this rookie driver in the IndyCars, it will be the second time in 6 races that he has come home in third place. So he's looking so very strong here today with a brilliant run. But one that has been most unusual and seen most of the key players in the points fight fall by the wayside, most notably the points leader Bobby Rahal and Emerson Fittipaldi, who really needed a good result here. But Al Unser Jr. and Michael Andretti, the other 2 players in the points fight, are currently running first and second. And the best indication is, we'd heard that there were fuel problems with Johansson's car, is that he may make that turn to the left off this last corner and come into the pits, splash some fuel into the tank and keep going. But for the time being, no, he's decided he'll run it another lap.
Splash and go, and he would have time to do it as we watch Tony Bettenhausen's crew prepare in the event of him coming in for a splash and go. Pruitt is the next man behind him. He would have time to do that. But Stefan Johansson, we have to remember, he is on a huge learning curve, learning new racetracks, new racing cars, and particularly things like turbochargers and turbo boosts. In fact, he had a lot of trouble with the boost and the wastegate system on Friday with this car. They did get it sorted out, but Johansson doing an excellent job.
Further update, Stefan Johansson, Gary Gerald.
Well, we're just checking with the crew. It's going to be literally a splash. If he comes in and they're ready for him, there's only 1 gallon of fuel remaining here in the hose. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
We just heard as Al Unser Jr. came by, guys, I think he's losing gears. We heard that telltale sign that he was skipping gears. Sounds like Al Jr. could be losing gears in the gearbox. Keep your eyes open for that. We also have very, very slowly Raul Boesel now coming into the pits. Paul?
So consider the top 3. Johansson may need fuel, Al Unser Jr. may need gears, and Michael Andretti, there's still that ominous little display of smoke that we saw at the top of the engine during the last pit stop. The closing laps are ahead. The closing laps now, Michael Andretti, there you see him, runs in first with just 4 laps to go to the end of the run. In second place is Al Unser Jr., but he is suffering gear problems, and Stefan Johansson seems to sense that and is beginning to close down. But why is Johansson capable of going so quickly? Well, part of the reason is that Johansson is very light, because he would really like to come into the pits and get a splash of fuel.
You can see it, 4 laps to go. Now, Johansson can take the risk because he's a full lap clear of Scott Pruitt. However, they will know, like we know, that Unser is in trouble with his gears. So now the gamble is, will I stop for fuel and play safe, or will I try and continue and catch Al Jr.?
So the front of the field, with changes caused by mechanical difficulty, could change in these last couple of laps, with Michael counting with just 3 laps to go. Let's go to Jan.
Well, speaking about Stefan Johansson and that splash of fuel, he just went by here shifting at very, very low revs. You would not short shift unless you were going to try and save fuel. I would say that means we may not see him on pit road. Otherwise, there's no reason he would short shift that much. Paul?
Consider the front of the order. Michael Andretti well out in front by a full 50 seconds. Al Unser Jr. is in good shape running alone unless he has continuing problems. But Scott Pruitt and Stefan Johansson, if Johansson cuts into the pits, Pruitt just might overhaul him. Don't forget Sports Center coming up next. All the action of the sports afternoon here from ESPN.
Michael looks good. We get great shots of how bumpy this long back stretch is here. They do about 175 miles an hour in race trim, and then you get to this very tight slow speed stuff. And Michael now being very mechanically sympathetic because he needs to bring this car home in one piece.
Michael Andretti has taken the pace down. His last lap run at 100 miles an hour even. That's 6 miles an hour off of his pace. We should see the white flag next time by The race speed thus far at 98 miles an hour, 98.7. Michael is running a pace a full 5 miles an hour faster than last year. So here is the turn that will carry him back under the SkyTrain tracks and toward the pit straight. Seems like there was a little hesitation as he came off the corner to look at 1 lap to go.
Look at that right front tire. See that black band all the way around the tire? See it right there? I wonder, is that the beginning of a blister? I don't see it so much here, but as he goes through the windy stuff, you can clearly see a black band. Not too much there, so maybe it's not a blister.
You also get the impression from several of the shots that there is a lot of tire debris and marbles right at the edge of the groove that also could be picked up from time to time. Michael Andretti working the last 1.5 miles of this course. He has been the key factor throughout the day and has remained for the most part unchallenged. This finish at the front of the field will give Michael a tremendous boost in the points fight and will give him a chance at 2 PPG championships in a row. He carries the #1 right now for last year's championship. Coming to the line too, Al Unser Jr. will be chasing Michael Andretti. The last set of corners for Al Unser Jr. as he comes onto the pit straight. And there is the twin checkered flag for Michael Andretti as he takes the win in the Kmart Haviland Rolla. Now don't forget, Sports Center will be coming up next right after this race. We'll come back in just a moment in the Newman Haas pits. They are congratulating one another on a win.
Only 12 back.
And Michael Andretti rolls into the Ford winner's circle powered by his somewhat smoking Ford engine. Now here are the final results of the race here today with Michael Andretti taking the win of the run here. Al Unser Jr. coming home in 2nd place, followed by Stefan Johansson and by Scott Pruitt and Scott Goodyear. That's the top 5. You'll see condensed coverage of this race on Checkered Flag this week at 8 o'clock Eastern on September 9th here on ESPN. Michael Andretti starts to unbuckle, but he has won the race.